Yeah, no, oats are also a bit misunderstood. That's what I feel like I really need to talk about as well. Okay, so I'm going to nerd into the fibers now, and you got to stop me at some point because I can go on for an hour about the fibers and the bacteria. It's super interesting. So it's called butyric acid. It is basically what the cells of the intestine love to eat. And actually, they also kill off cancer cells. And it is one of the main ones that gets released from oats.
Welcome to the Herbs with Rosalee podcast, a show exploring how herbs heal as medicine and as food, and through connecting with the living world around you. In this episode, I'm joined by Karoline Karttunen, an herbalist and community weaver, to talk about one of the gentlest, most powerful plant allies, oats. Karoline shares how this humble grain and its medicine nourish the nervous system, restore resilience, and connect us back to rhythms of care and rest. After this interview, I kid you not, I ate oats for breakfast for weeks on end. I was that inspired about it, and I know you will be too. This conversation is soothing, heartfelt, and filled with practical wisdom, and I can't wait for you to join us. If you enjoy this episode, please give us a thumbs up so more plant lovers can find us, and be sure to stay tuned in until the very end for your herbal tidbit. Thank you so much for being on the show. I'm so excited to have you here, Karoline.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here, really.
Wonderful. And thank you for all of your patience. We've had lots of tech stuff getting this one started. So I think we're rolling clear now, but thank you so much. It's always a miracle that we get to do this. And then when the tech goes wrong, it's kind of also just a bummer. So, but we're here now.
But still, we're still able to talk, even though we're halfway around the world.
Mm-hmm.
Each other.
Well, as I mentioned in the introduction, you and I met in Italy, which is a very good, meet cute origin story for us. And we got on really well. And I don't think I know your origin story amidst all of that. So I'm excited to hear, how the plants called you along the way and and hear about the things that brought you to us today.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't brought up in a family of plants. I'm brought up just by the water, by the ocean in Sweden, on the west coast. And my whole dad's family were fishermen. So the ocean has always been our focus. We've always been out of the water. We've been fishing way too much when I was a kid. But so that has always been my element, and wherever I traveled, it was always close to the ocean. And then the more I traveled, the more I realized that, actually, I kind of like to go into the jungle more than I like to be in the water. And I would take more and more trips into the jungle or find the forests. And, I really, really like to hike and to walk a lot. So that's what I've been doing. I've been traveling a lot. So from the age of, I went at 16 on my first trip on myself, and then I just continued. So by 19, when I finished school, I just took my backpack, and then I basically lived in my backpack for 10 years. Mm-hmm. And through those trips, I spent a lot of time in India and many other places where herbs are more of a natural part of life, which it really, really isn't in Sweden. I think Sweden is one of the most restrictive country when it comes to herbs. We really don't use it so much anymore, or the last 1 or 2 generations, because before that we did. But we really don't use it so much. All the rules and regulations on how to use it are extremely tough. And I think actually one of the toughest in the world. I've done a lot of research about it. And so it's, my generation, we don't know so much about plants. We don't use plants so much, and we've been taught that it's something to be a bit scared of, to not deal with it too much. And then I was traveling through all these countries where they're of course we use plants. We use it to strengthen our health. We use it when we need them. And I think my first proper experience of what herbs are capable of doing was when I was in India. And I got so constipated. Usually you get the opposite, but I got horribly constipated. And I didn't know what to do with myself. I went to some doctor that gave me a big blue pill that was like taking the flu on a pill. It was horrible. It helped, but it was not worth it. And then eventually I went to an Ayurvedic doctor that, do what all the Ayurvedic doctors, they talk to you, they ask you about your habits and how you sleep and all of that, which was really interesting. And then told me to use Triphala. which is a combination of 3 herbs and fruits that they use for problems with the digestive. And it was amazing. It was the only thing that really helped me. But I didn't really know so much about herbs then. I didn't know that I could take it for a longer period of time. Then I traveled to other places and I didn't bring it with me. But it was like really my first experience of like, wow, herbs are amazing. They really work. And then, slowly, I started getting more interested. And then I got pregnant when I was 29. And that's when I really started questioning, okay, what am I putting into my body? What am I putting on my skin, on my body? Everything is going to affect this little baby. And I took my first herbal courses. So it was doing skincare with herbs. And I got just I went bananas. I went crazy with it. I was just, I think that's what I did when I was pregnant. I was just standing in my kitchen and making all these herbal creams. And like, then very soon after that, after our daughter was born, we moved to California, which is the mecca of herbalism in many ways, right? Like everyone is into herbs. You can talk to anyone in the supermarket about herbs. Everyone is there by the herb section. So it was a really good jump start for me. And I met this beautiful woman in a farmer's market up north in Northern California. And I asked her, like, okay, where do I buy herbs, and what do I do now? I want to learn more. And she really pointed me to all the good places, to like Mountain Rose and to learning herbs. So that's where I got in contact with you, first of all, as my teacher, which you've really been an important teacher in my journey. So yeah, so I got just dived into it, and then doing that for many years and living in California. And then I got back to Sweden and decided to go to university to become a nutritionist, because it's free here in Sweden. You can go to university and pay nothing, which is amazing. So that's what I did. And then afterwards, I did more courses in herbalism and just experimenting a lot. Like, I just really like to be practical with herbs and using herbs. And I'm such a forager, so I'm just always out. And I have been since I started learning about it, just, being out picking herbs. And yeah, so it's been a journey in many directions, just how it is for most people.
Well, I love that combination of travel and herbs, your own story of, having the Ayurveda healer, and then also diving into dietitian work as well, because obviously those things go together so well. Yeah. And I love that you chose oats for today, because oats are some of my favorite. And I've actually been drinking a lot of oat straw infusions recently and just really loving the oats as well. Just a ways back, I just went into like an oatmeal phase. So I was eating lots of oatmeal too. So anyway, oats are very up for me, and I'm excited to hear you talk about them. I'm curious why you chose oats for today's episode.
It just felt like the obvious choice, because I'm a nutritionist and I'm a herbalist. It just felt like, of course, I need to talk about oats. It was like either that or nettle, but no, oats are just, because I think I'm Swedish, and my generation and a few generations before me, we are brought up on oats. Like Sweden is one of the biggest producers of oats per capita and per, the area of how much we grow. So we grow a lot. Finland and Sweden grow a lot of oats. We've been eating it. When I was young, every camp you went to, there was always a pot of porridge and whatever. So it was, it's a plant that I hold dear. I eat porridge every day still. Monday to Friday, I eat oatmeal, and that's the recipe I'm sharing with you that we're going to talk about later. And then on the weekends, I eat yogurt to be a bit crazy. But oats are also a bit misunderstood. That's what I feel like I really need to talk about as well, because they've been within the herbal world, they really are very respected, and we realize that it's a really important plant. It has so much nutrients in it, and it's a great plant for restoring and balancing and strengthening our nervous system. And in herbalism, we usually use the milky oats, right? The milky tops. That's the most potent, maybe, to strengthen and affect the nervous system. But of course, the whole plant, whatever way we eat it, whatever way you use it, does the same thing. And so it's such an obvious plant to to love as a herbalist. But otherwise, it feels like oats have, I think especially I've noticed when I lived in the States that in the States, it has a really bad reputation. And I think it has to do with you having a lot of, these ready-made packages where you have a ton of sugar inside of it. And I think most Americans seem to think of oatmeal as something very sweet, right? You eat it with a jam, you eat it with maple syrup, something really sweet and not a good breakfast. And also, at the moment, we are, really questioning carbs. In the 80s and the 90s, people were super scared of fat. Fat was the devil. And then we realized that it's not really that easy, it's not like that. And today we have a completely different view on fats. And today instead, carbs have that reputation. And of course, if you eat a lot of refined carbs, like refined sugars and white flour, it's really not good for us. And unfortunately, that's what a lot of people are doing. Mm. But carbs are super important to us. We need carbs, and there are a certain part of the body that doesn't survive without it, like our brain and our heart and our red blood cells. They have to have carbs. They do not survive without it. They cannot live out of the, like, if we don't eat carbs, for example, then the body starts producing the ketone bodies, which has, this is the keto diet that people are on. You have a low carb diet, and then you start creating these ketone bodies. And, like I said, our brain cannot live on that. So carbs are important and we need them. And also, I think people forget that dietary fibers are a part of carb. They're also carbs. And it's such an important part of our diet. And in the old days, we used to eat a ton of it. We don't eat 1% of what we ate before of it. Most people really don't get enough. And if we cut down on the carbs, there's a big chance that we cut down a lot on the dietary fibers. And that's kind of detrimental to our health, to our intestine and the bacteria that I'm going to talk a lot about today because it's super interesting. So I think, in that way, it's also really interesting to talk about oats because people think it's not a good thing. I get a lot of comments and questions about that as well. And this thing of like, we're not supposed to eat grains, really. That's another thing that people say, that we shouldn't been eating too much grains. And I don't really know what I feel about that. First of all, the science today says that a whole wheat grain is, we can see it if we do big studies on population levels, which I think kind of gives a fairly good show on how good it is for humans. When we don't zoom in too much on the small, but like we zoom out and we look at full populations, and then we see that people who eat a lot of whole grains are usually pretty healthy, and it's good for us. And then there's all these voices today saying we shouldn't be eating too much grains. We haven't been eating it for too long. Like before we started cultivating food about 10,000 years ago, we weren't eating grains. And to me, it doesn't really make sense. It also doesn't make sense because we know, for example, that in the south of Italy, people were using oats specifically like 32,000 years ago. So we have evidence of that. They used to grind it up kind of like what we do today and make a porridge of it. That's what we think they've been doing with it. That's 32,000 years ago. That's when most people on this planet still lived as hunter-gatherers. Mm-hmm. And then 10,000 years ago, we started cultivating food. So people say, but before that, we didn't use these grains. So that's why we're not supposed to eat them. But also, why did we start cultivating these seeds? Probably because they were pretty easy to cultivate, right? Because we were probably picking them a lot and realizing this is really good food. It gives us a lot of energy. They grow really well. When I drop these seeds, they pop up again. So, there's a purpose to why we started cultivating them as well. That's why I wanted to talk about oats.
I love that. And I can tell we're going to dig into some topics that I'm really excited about. I was raised on those little packets of oatmeal sugar, basically. They're basically, like quick rolled oats. So they've been kind of stripped of a lot of their fibers and then a bunch of sugar added to them. Yeah, that was a solid breakfast at my house for sure. And so, you brought me back to that. I'm, as anyone who's in my classes know, I don't think there's a class where I don't talk about the joys of fiber and how much we need it and how fiber is so much more important than, say, taking an expensive probiotic supplement. And so it sounds like you're going to get into that, though. So
I will hold off. But yeah, I'm really excited to hear about it. And yeah, you're right. It's vilified in so many ways. And yeah, and the whole grain thing, I've definitely moved beyond that too, because yeah, looking at those big studies, things are okay. It's just a matter of, I mean, like you said, there's a big difference between those little packets of oatmeal sugars and a difference between having, whole rolled oats that have been properly prepared. That's a really big difference on so many different levels, even, glucose metabolism as well. So yeah. All right. Well, where are we going to dive in next?
Exactly. Well, let's start with that, with like how it regulates our blood sugar levels and stuff. Because I think, yeah, if you eat it like how you say with these packages, then yes, your blood sugar level is probably going to jump up pretty fast. Actually, I can start talking because we did a really cool test when I was studying to become a nutritionist in one of my classes. We did a lab test. So the first week we got to the lab, and on fasting stomach in the morning, and we were allowed to eat dinner the night before early, and then we didn't eat anything. I think we drank a little bit of water. I think that's all we were allowed. We came there in the morning, fasting stomach, and we drank this horrible slimy glucose, like what you do when you're pregnant. You get to drink this like horrible liquid with like pure sugars to see, yeah, if you have diabetes, as like a pregnancy diabetes. It's a lot of sugar. And then for 2 hours, we were taking our blood sugar levels for every 15 minutes for 2 hours. And it was interesting, right? Because you drink this sugar and, the blood sugar level just peaked. And then it crashed pretty fast, actually. And it crashed to the levels of below where we started on a fasting stomach. So we all felt horrible after 2 hours, right?
Yeah.
And then the next week we got to do the same test, but choose ourselves what to eat. And then with the same amount of carbohydrates, but we chose oatmeal in our group. So we had to eat quite a lot of oatmeals to get to the same carbs. And we didn't get to do anything else. We didn't get to add salt or anything. So it was pretty yucky, but it was interesting because then, yeah, we ate that. And for 2 hours, took our blood sugar levels. And it was a completely different story because you have so much dietary fibers in the oats. And you have actually quite a lot of protein. It's like 13% protein. You have healthy fats. All these things help to regulate the blood sugar levels. They make them not, go spiking up. So, instead we didn't add anything to it, but we just ate the oats, and we had a really stable blood sugar level for 2 hours. So that's interesting because it really shows that, like I said, a lot of people think it's the same thing as eating like a toast with jam on it, and it really, really isn't. And yeah, a big part of that are these fibers. Okay, so I'm going to nerd into the fibers now, and you got to stop me at some point because I can go on for an hour about the fibers and the bacteria. It's super interesting. But yeah, so in general, the dietary fibers, they're carbohydrates, like long chains, and there's two different types of them. So we have the soluble and the insoluble. And the soluble fibers are the fibers that are actually they're not absorbed by our bodies. We're not able to absorb them and use them in our bodies. And they also don't go down to the bacteria. Instead, they are, if you put these kind of fibers in water, they swell up, just like how a porridge does, right? How oats do, and how chia seeds do, and how flax seeds do. So they just basically go through our bodies like a gel, and act as a bulk for our intestines, for our whole system. And what they also do is they bind to all of these like different toxins and cholesterol, and then they make the stomach, the food stay in the stomach for a longer time. It takes a longer time for it to release into the intestine, which is what we want for our blood sugar levels. And it just makes us go to the bathroom much, much better. So people who need to have help with that should really eat more of these soluble fibers because it just helps the whole system be smoother. And these kind of fibers you have a lot of, right, in oats. Beta-glucans is one of them, which has been spoken about quite a lot because we realize that mushrooms have a lot of them, and it's those fibers that are really good for our immune system. They look a little bit different in mushrooms, and the ones in mushrooms are a little even more like effective on like boosting our immune system. But of course, the beta glucans in oats also do that. And then, there's a bunch of different types of a bunch of different types of soluble fibers. And then we have the insoluble fibers, which instead also don't get absorbed by our bodies, but they go down to the bacteria in the large intestine. And there they get fermented, which is just magic, actually, how it happens. They ferment it, and when they ferment it, all these different metabolites and stuff are released, and that's what is the magic of them. The more these bacteria we have, different types, because we eat a lot of different types of fibers, the better we feel, because they release more and more stuff. They also lower the pH in the intestine, which is really good, because then we are able to get even more bacteria. So you have like this positive spiral, right? And oats have a bunch of these as well. So there's a lot of fibers in oats that are really, really important to our health. And you have like some of the things that are released from the fermentation when the bacteria ferment the fibers are called, this is such a tongue twister for a Swede, short chain fatty acids. I'm not going to say that fast 5 times. But so they're like short chains fatty acids that's released. There's one that's especially good. That's the best food for the cells of the intestine. So it's called butyric acid. And it is basically what the cells of the intestine love to eat. What keeps them healthy, what helps them to, keep whole. And actually, they also kill off cancer cells. So this butyric acid is super, super important for us. And it is one of the main ones that gets released from oats. So oats is one of the best foods to eat to release these butyric acids, which, today when we have so many problems with our intestines, I mean, there's so many people with inflammations in the intestines, with leaky guts. Not everybody with these kind of conditions can handle oats, but most people actually can. And if we can, then we really, really should, because this butyric acid is going to make sure to keep the intestine really strong and healthy. So these are some of I can babble on forever, but yeah.
Well, right now I'm like really, really, really want a bowl of porridge. Like that's kind of like what my mind's at right now. I'm like, I can eat more. I'm curious, just on a personal level. So I'm really into oat bran, and I will add that to, like, we make our own bread, and we add oat bran to our bread. And any baked good that we do, we sub out like a quarter cup or whatever of regular flour, usually whole wheat flour, but then we sub in the oat bran. And just because of that like fiber aspect of it, I'm just curious what you think of that. Hopefully you think good things.
I think it's great. I think, we all need more fibers. It's interesting, because the recommendations today, I think it's the same thing in the States as in Sweden, is about 25 to 35 grams. It's grams though, per day. And it's more or less the same in the States and here in Europe. Most Westerners eat about 20 grams a day. And then a lot of people eat more than that. So that means that a lot of people are eating much less than that. So very few people are, getting up to the recommendations. And then it's just so fascinating, because there's still people on this planet that lives as hunter-gatherers, right? You have a few groups in the world that does that. And there's one group in Tanzania, the Hadza people, which is it's just fascinating. They live as hunter-gatherers, like what we did 10,000 years ago. They still live like that. And they're super generous with sharing their lives with Western scientist that comes down there. And I always think about like what they think of us. They come down, and there's, we ask for their poop to see what kind of bacteria they have. We put all these machines on them to see their pulse and how many steps they take. And I mean, these people don't even have healthcare. So it's really fascinating how generous they've been, so that we understand, like, how is the human body actually supposed to function? We don't know that anymore. And they've done a lot of nutritional studies on them, and seen that the hunter-gatherers eat somewhere between 80 to 150 grams of fibers every single day. And yeah, it's a huge difference from what we eat. So I think wherever we can add fibers, just like what you're doing in your bread, even if you're using whole wheat bread or whatever, like whole grain bread, it's great. We need fibers. And for some people, it's going to be hard to just start adding it into food. You got to do it slowly so that you adjust your bacteria in the stomach, right? You get the right bacteria, because if you just start adding a bunch and you don't have the bacteria to break it down, it's gonna hurt. But if we do it slowly, yeah, it's a great thing to do.
I became really fascinated about this because I started reading studies about just the short-term benefits of taking a probiotic supplement, which, probiotic supplements are generally expensive. There's questionable quality. But let's say, you get a good quality one, you're taking it. It's been shown to like mildly change gut flora for a short period of time, which then pretty much ends once the probiotic ends. And so to me, I was just like, wow, that's a big waste of money. And just, you go to the store, health food stores, they'll have like a whole dedicated fridge, like mini fridge that's like all probiotic supplements, right? And I always love it when it comes back to whole foods and like how much better whole foods is. And just like you're saying, we need all different kinds of fibers and we need a lot of them. We probably can't do it too much unless we go too fast, like you said. I work really hard to get enough fiber in my diet, and it's a struggle to get, like up to 40 grams. So I can't imagine like 80 to 100. That just seems amazing to me. Right. A lot of fibrous roots and stuff.
Because I guess also it's really cool because they've done a lot of studies recently where they found bones from people who lived like 6,000 to 8,000 years ago. And it's amazing what we can see today. We can go in and look at all these like different small things. I don't know how they do it, but pretty cool studies where they've seen that, a lot of people around the world actually in that hunter-gatherer time ate like 75 to 90% plants and not as much animals as we thought. So of course, then, I guess that's what the Hadza people are doing as well. It takes a lot of energy to hunt, and it's a big risk because you might hurt yourself and so on. So yeah, people have always been eating a lot of plants. So we don't do that anymore in the same way.
Yeah.
But also on that note, with the probiotics, I guess, it's been blown up because it's a business. But you have the probiotics, which is already the bacteria, like what you're saying, and then we have the prebiotics, which are the fibers. So that's what we should eat more of. We should talk more about prebiotics as well, because that's what that's the food for the bacteria. If we eat prebiotics, which are the fibers, then the bacteria have something to eat, and then they multiply. And if you eat a lot of vegetables and if you eat this kind of diet, you're going to get enough of probiotic as well. But just eat, more prebiotic.
Yeah, good call. Well, I'm sure I'm not the only one who really wants a bowl of porridge right now, each and every day. Can you talk a little bit about the recipe you shared with us?
Definitely. Yeah. I'm just going to add something else about the oats before I start talking about my recipe. Because I think, the within the herbal world, we put a lot of emphasis on the milky tops and how important they are and how strong and potent they are really to strengthen and balance our nervous system. And if we feel really, everyone is stressed today, right? And if we feel tired and stressed and all this, then it's such a great help, and you can feel the effect pretty fast. But any kind of oats will do the same. It's just that we need to use it for a longer period of time. And it is pretty cool because there's a bunch of different things. We can go into molecules and see why that might be. And one of the things with this, like I said, these short chain fatty acids.
Good job.
This butyric acid that oats release a lot, they actually go and cross the brain-blood barrier and it affect our brains, So of course, we're going to feel better, and they affect our brains in many different ways, like antidepressant. It makes us calmer. It affects the vagus nerve, so the communication between the brain and the gut is stronger. So all these things, that's whatever kind of oats we eat, we're going to get that effect. As well as oats contain melatonin, and it contains tryptophan, which is the amino acid that we need to create melatonin and serotonin. And I always find it so interesting. And so, like, there's so many foods and plants that actually contain melatonin and serotonin, these neurotransmitters, you know, like a lot of other neurotransmitters. We got to eat stuff and we got to do things to, like, you know, keep them in going. But this, we can actually eat it in our foods so that we sleep better and feel better and are more content and all this stuff. And yeah, oats do this to us as well. It actually makes us more content. We create more melatonin and serotonin. So I think that's why I eat so much porridge. I can't, like, you know, if anyone would tell me to eat the same dinner every day, I would shoot myself. But at night I can be like, oh, I can't wait to go and eat my porridge in the morning. I just love it. And I don't make a very, very sweet porridge. And what I do is I just add a bunch of things to it. And that's why porridge is so amazing, because you can add so many different types of nuts and seeds. And it's great for like herbal powders. You can even make like a herbal tea and use that as the water. So in the end, this porridge is just full of fibers. It's full of healthy fats. It's really protein rich. I feel full from it for many, many hours. So I add chia seeds and hemp seeds, and quite a lot of hemp seeds because they have a lot of protein. And then I add, you know, it depends on something, you know, now it's the nettle seed season. So I usually put nettle seeds inside. I almost always have maca in it, which is also a really nutritional powder, which gives energy, and it's a bit sweet. Sometimes I add rosehip powder. I mean, you can use any kind of powder, right? And if we do that on a daily basis, we really get a good effect of these herbs. So I think it is really one of the easiest breakfasts to mix in a lot of things, a lot of herbs and stuff. And then I eat mine with blueberries and unsweetened applesauce, and I make my own milk from different nuts. So it can really be a healthy breakfast.
I have a question about the oats that you might use. I know here we have different options. Like there's, you go to the store, there's rolled oats, Scottish oats, all different kinds of oats. Do you know about the different kinds of oats?
Yeah, I think you guys have more than we have. We have like oats here in Sweden.
Okay.
It's organic oats or it's regular oats. We don't really have the steel cut oats that much. You can find it, but it's not that common. But the steel cut one are, of course, the absolute best because they've been the least processed. But they take the longest as well to cook, right? But if we have the time, then it's a great way to eat it. Otherwise, you know, as long as it's hasn't been too processed and mixed with, the less processed something has been, and that means processing just means cutting it or like, you know, whatever we do to it. So I don't know what the Scottish ones are.
I said Scottish. I think maybe I meant still cut, actually. Yeah. Wow. Are there Scottish oats? I'm not quite sure. There's Scottish oat cakes. There's that, but yeah, maybe still cut. Do you soak overnight or do anything like that, or do you like cook them in the morning?
I don't. I just, you know, use it in the morning. There's some concerns about you have these anti-nutrients in oats, in grains in general, like phytic acid. And it's interesting. I really read a lot of articles about it, and it's just funny with this kind of science we have today. When we nerd into specific components of food, we can really be showing what actually happens, because it never just acts as one thing and isolated, right? So we've been doing studies earlier where we've seen that this phytic acid, it's not so great, you know, it binds to other minerals, so it can bind to calcium and stuff, and then we can't absorb it. So for a long time we were scared of it. But then there's been a bunch of studies that have been looking at it like a little bit of a bigger view and from different angles, and seeing like, hold on, it actually has a bunch of benefits. It's actually anti-cancerogenic, for example, and it strengthens the health in many ways. So I'm not so concerned. Like, of course, if I eat beans, I soak them before because they have quite a lot of it, and I pour out that water. But I'm not so concerned with the oats. So I just make them.
Okay, that's good to hear. I love how you're just adding all these different herbal goodies to it, like the nettle seed. Whew. It is nettle seed season. I've got so much in my garden, so I'm going to be doing that. I could also see, just like you're saying, you have oats every day for breakfast, but you could be having a different bowl of porridge every day, in the sense that you could change up all the different things that you're putting out, all the different herbs, fruits, nuts, spices, all of it. Yeah, I love it. Thank you so much for sharing the recipe with us. And listeners can download that at herbswithrosaleepodcast.com, or check out the show notes, and definitely let us know what you think. I know that I can't be the only one who's excited for porridge right now.
Yeah, it's blueberry season here as well. So now it's like fresh blueberries on my porridge. It's amazing. I love it.
I love that.
Hey friends, it's Rosalee. If you've been nourished by this podcast, if it's helped you feel more connected to the plants or more grounded in your own herbal path, then I'd love to invite you to join the Herbs with Rosalee podcast circle. This special membership helps make the podcast possible. It supports everything we do behind the scenes, and it gives you a chance to go even deeper with the content that you love. Inside the circle, you'll get exclusive herbal resources, live classes each season with some of my favorite herbal teachers, and a private space to connect with fellow plant lovers. It's where the heart of our herbal community continues to grow. To learn more and join us, visit herbalpodcastcircle.com. Your support means the world, and it helps this podcast continue to bloom.
Was there anything else that you'd like to dive into about oats?
I can go on for another 2 hours about oats, but no, I think yeah, that's some of the most important things about oats. It's a beautiful, beautiful food.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. Your enthusiasm really comes through. And you've mentioned, herbalism in Sweden is kind of different. It's maybe not as accepted. I know you do teach, and I don't know, I'm just kind of curious to hear maybe what things you're working on, and and just like, what is, I don't know, maybe more about herbal life in Sweden.
Yeah. Yes. Well, it's a very small community here of herbalists, of people who actually work with it. But it's growing, and it's really fun, and we're really trying to get to know each other and build a community here, with so much, love and inspiration. And we really feel, taking inspiration from the American community, because you guys have been amazing too. We actually had Rosemary Gladstar come here now this spring. So a few of us organized an event, and she came over and just, to help us to how do we start community, like a herbal community here, both as working with it, but also people who are interested in it, because there hasn't really been that much, but it's happening, which is really fun. So it's a fun time to be here. I can see it I had my business now for a few years, and for 5 years, and every year, there's more and more interest, of course. And it's not just because I'm getting better at marketing, it's because you really see it's happening here, and it's happening rapidly. So I have both, I have courses, which I just love to have courses in personal. So I have them actually where I'm sitting right now. It's a beautiful, beautiful spot. It's a house so I have all these different kinds of herbal courses where people come to learn. Well, I have herb walks, and I do different projects, products, and natural skincare. And I also have my online courses, and I'm not really sure if I'm gonna be able to keep this house. So I might be doing a very intense fall now with a lot of herb courses here in person, and then do a little bit more of my online in the spring. Let's see, because now there's just so much going on here, which is really fun. So I don't have time to create this new online course that I want to create. So yeah, it's fun to be working here now at this time when it's really starting to happen in Sweden. Definitely.
I find that so fascinating about the building of community. It's just something that really interests me on a personal level. So I knew that Rosemary had gone there, and she had such a lovely time. And it's interesting that part of the reason you brought her there was about how do we form community? Yeah,
exactly.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, I mean
You know,
that's what she's so good at it, right? She's so good
Mhm.
at like making people come together. So it was a nice inspirational event with her, definitely.
I'm kind of putting you on the spot here. So, feel free to sidestep this, but I'm kind of wondering, like, do you have any tips for someone who might want to, like might be in a similar place? Like maybe even if it's here, like they live in the US, but maybe they don't have a lot of herbal community, like specifically where they live. Like, do you have any things that you're kind of working on, or just kind of like that beginning, like, here's how we build the community within the herb world?
Um, well, it takes engagement, right? It takes a strong will, and it takes a bit of work to reach out to people. That's what you have to do, and you have to contact each other and meet up and be a part of it. Like if there's not so much community building, you have to step into it and like start creating it. I guess that's what we did here a bit, like just meeting in different places and then meeting online, even if you don't like live close to each other, and like, okay, we're doing this, and then start planning for it and just diving into it and not waiting for someone else to do it. Like, even if you don't feel like you're that kind of person, if you are a group of people that it doesn't have to be like a crazy event that you're doing, like a big festival or whatever, or just like something, and be a part of reaching out and doing it. Yeah. And like, yeah, in the States, you already have spots where you can go and just jump into a community. And here it's been like more of, how do we create it? But yeah, the more people that are getting into it, and the more enthusiastic people you have, and then I think when it kind of starts rolling.
Yeah. I love that. It's very practical. It's just like we have to engage. Like we can't always wait for community to come to us. You have to be the ones that are out there put in front of another. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, before
Exactly.
you go, Karoline, I have one last question for you. And that is, how has herbalism surprised you?
Of course, in so many ways, like all of us. The first time maybe when I used that trifala, but it's so many different ways. I mean, every time also just it surprises me how herbs can affect people in so many different ways. But for me personally, when I started, I mean, I was like 29 when I really started getting into herbs. So I wasn't a teenager, I wasn't a child, I was like already an adult woman who had done a lot of stuff in my life. And I went into it, and with the time, I didn't just find the plants or the plants me, but wow, I really found myself. I realized that I am such a forager. Like I don't have an ADHD diagnosis, but I think a lot of people who know me think that I'm on that spectrum, definitely. And I think our task in a hunt together, which I think is always interesting, it's always important to go back to that thought, like, because that's where we come from, like, who would I be in hunt together group? And my kind of personality that's always out looking, needing to go to new places, never satisfied, always a lot of like, energy to go and do stuff. Super important in those days, right? Like, okay, yeah, we can go and find blueberries over there. I think it's more water if we go that way. And then you have some other crazy person who comes and are impulsive and takes risk without thinking before. Really, really important, right? And I think a lot of us are foragers. I'm a lousy gardener. I really don't like it. I make myself garden, and my husband is a great gardener, and he pushes me and he looks at me and he's like, Gara, you need to put the seeds in now. Because I just want to forage. I just want to be out on the fields. If I cannot walk anywhere without, like, my eyes are just scanning every plant that I see, that is definitely who I am. And when I turn that person on, I cannot believe I didn't see that before. Like, I think that's how herbalism has surprised me the most. Like, oh my God, I didn't even know that person existed before. This is who I am. And it's crazy to think if I never went into herbalism, I wouldn't have found that. And I think also, like, it's really the core of it's the core of being me. It's the core of being a human. This is what we're supposed to do, to forage and look for plants, look for food. So nothing else would have been able to fill that spot, right? I would have just been like, I think what a lot of people try to do to fill this spot of what we're supposed to do, finding food, and then we just trying to fill that hole with a bunch of other crap instead, when people should just go out and look for food, basically. So I think that might have been the biggest surprise.
Oh, I love that so much. It's really, and I see that in so many people, like finding the herbs, being called on the plant path, they find out who they are. And it feels like a recognition almost of just like, oh, this is who I am. This is what I'm meant to be. And it's so wonderful to see that within the herbal world too, because you have people like yourselves who are just so called to the foraging. And then you'll find people who are like that, their thing is the medicine making or the gardening or the whatever. And they get to like, just bring their deep skills and passions to that and become such a benefit to the herbal community as their gifts are shared. So yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful way that herbalism can surprise us, is finding ourselves.
Definitely.
It was so nice to have you. You're so enthusiastic and fun, and like it's just infectious. I'm just like, can't wait to have more oats in my life now. So I'm very excited for that. I'm going to send you like photos of my breakfast. So excited. And yeah, I'm excited to just make all different kinds of porridge too. Like like you've shared with your recipe. So I'm gonna feed all my healthy flora, do all the things. So regulate my system. Yeah, I'm all into it. So thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. And I was really looking forward to hearing from other folks and how much they're going to love their oats too.
Yeah, more oat to the people. Thank you, Rosalee. It's been really nice to talk to you. Super sweet.
Thanks so much for listening. You can download your illustrated recipe card from today's episode. Just head over to herbswithrosaleepodcast.com or check out the show notes for a link. And if you're not already subscribed, I'd love to have you as part of this herbal community so I can deliver even more herbal goodies your way. This podcast is made possible in part by our awesome students. This week's student spotlight is on Megan Verdugo in California. Megan has taken many of our programs, including Cooling Inflammation, the Herbal Energetics course, and Rooted Medicine Circle. She brings so much warmth and curiosity and encouragement wherever she goes. She once shared that in her 20s, her sister called her my own private witch doctor whenever she was catching a cold or feeling a UTI coming on. So now she's taking that early spark even further, continuing her dream of becoming an herbalist and deepening her connection with the plants through every course. To honor her contributions, Mountain Rose Herbs is sending Megan a $50 gift certificate to stock up on their incredible selection of organically and sustainably sourced herbal supplies. Thank you, Mountain Rose, for supporting our amazing students. And if you'd like to be an herbalist, you can check out my foundational courses at herbswithrosalee.com. Okay, you've made it to the end of the show, which means you get a gold star and this herbal tidbit. All right, here's the tidbit about oats. So unlike many of our herbal allies, oats don't rely on bees or butterflies for pollination. They're wind pollinated, which means entire fields of oats release pollen into the breeze to ensure the next generation. And I love imagining that, the beginnings of this powerful food and medicine being carried on the wind. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you in the next episode.